Okay, so I'll introduce this one because I've got Rich kind of slaving away over the coffee machine. And what we want to do in this kind of practical demonstration, not a practical demonstration of how to make coffee, I must admit, is we just want to briefly consider the difference between should I use coffee or should I use caffeine when we're looking at ergogenic aids for performance.
What's the difference?
The difference being caffeine is the single metabolite, well, it's actually made up of 3 metabolites actually. And so that's the molecule that if you buy a caffeine, something like Pro Plus, you're buying pure caffeine. Coffee, on the other hand, contains caffeine, but it's got hundreds of other metabolites as well. And it's most probably the synergy between these different metabolites that gives coffee a slightly different effect. So having worked with a number of elite athletes, it's interesting because in some cases we've tried using something like Pro Plus and actually seen very little effect. And then when we've switched to using, say, pure espresso or a strong cup of coffee, suddenly we've seen an effect. And so for each individual, it's a case of finding out what works. So I will hand you over to my barista over here, who will maybe give you a little bit more information, we hope.
Yeah, well, like you said, some of the compounds in coffee, the polyphenols and things like that, it's thought that those will have a synergistic effect with the actual caffeine molecule within the coffee. So it's been shown several times in controlled studies that people who derive their caffeine intake from capsule form or supplemental form, so like Pro Plus, things like that, actually get, you bear with me while I just squeeze this coffee out, people who derive their caffeine from coffee sources rather than synthesized caffeine sources, things like that, tend to actually get slightly better effects from the caffeine that you'd expect. So there's this sort of synergistic effect of these polyphenols and these bioactive compounds, such as the antioxidants found in the coffee but not found in the caffeine tablets alone, like Pro Plus, things like that, that actually help. They've got cholinergic effects, there's caffeinic acids, there's antioxidants, anti-inflammatory compounds in there, and all in all, when you combine those, there you go.
Yeah, an amazing cup of coffee.
Yeah, one of those, when you combine those, you get an amazing cup of coffee, but you also get a far more effective pre-workout than just taking a tablet on its own. And the interesting thing there is a lot of pre-workouts that people will take are going to be drinks that contain very high amounts of caffeine, but they don't have all those other compounds in them that have been shown to be synergistic. So your pre-workout pump solution might have arginine in it or something, but the caffeine in it on its own isn't quite as effective, and it's in a massive dose.
And I think the other thing you've got to think about is not only your source, how you're getting it, you can get it in gums, powders, pills, so lots of different ways you can take it. The other thing is how much caffeine do you have in your normal diet. So at the moment this caffeine is having no effect on me and Rich whatsoever.
This is like take 10 actually, so I'm pretty...
Yeah, we've drunk so much coffee that there's just no way it's having an effect. So you need to think about things like, are you caffeine naive? How much caffeine do you regularly have? Because the less caffeine you regularly have, the more effect you get when you do actually use caffeine. And that's possibly another discussion, I think, but yeah. Caffeine naivety, genetic susceptibility, if I could even say the word, it's too much caffeine now, all factor into this. But it's an interesting kind of topic to look at, how do you actually get your caffeine.